Welcome back. You're watching Business Today here on KTN News. And just a reminder of our Twitter poll question. We asked which of these areas in transport and infrastructure need more investment, and the options we gave were the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, roads around the country, the Mombasa Port, or the Lapsset project. And 10% of you say the Lapsset project needs more investment, 5% say it is the Mombasa Port, while 77% say roads need more investment, while 8% say the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport needs more investment. Well, would like to hear from you as well. We'll be taking a look at some of your tweets as we go along, or at least at the end of the show. Now, the second edition of an ongoing series of State House summits was held this morning, with today's edition focusing on transport and infrastructure. Stakeholders, including the government, investors, and various citizens, came together to take stock of infrastructure and transport in the country. All right, and joining us now is the Cabinet Secretary for Transport and Infrastructure, Waziri James Macharia. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, the summit on transport and infrastructure just concluded, but I would like to focus my attention on the local contractors vis-a-vis the foreign contractors. What are some of the considerations you have when you are actually giving these contracts?
Well, number one, Joy, our ultimate objective is to make sure we deliver the road to the Kenyans who are expecting it. Kenyans are the first to complain if we have a road which is delayed. And so when you have a very ambitious, aggressive program like we have, we really cannot afford to take a gamble on people who we believe cannot deliver. So like this program of low volume seal, the criteria is about capacity. You come to us as a contractor, we tender, you bid, you show us the capacity. If your capacity is commensurate with what we are saying, then you stand a very good chance. However, we have been disappointed before, unfortunately, by our local contractors. You know them, and what we cannot do now is to repeat the same mistakes. You find a road which was given 5 years ago, it is still stuck on the ground. Wananchi are complaining. They come to us, we require a solution. So what we've done is to make sure we give our contractors, foreign and local, equal opportunities, but they must demonstrate capacity at the same level.
All right. So if that said, what exactly do you do when we are having most of the contracts as well going to foreigners? Because that's what it looks like at the moment. But are we really helping the local contractors when we continuously give these contracts to, or tenders to foreign contractors?
Well, we are also mindful that we have to build capacity for ourselves for the future. And what we've done is, like you heard the DG of Kenya saying, we actually introduced through the procurement law that when these big foreign contractors come, they must demonstrate that they have, say, a local partner at 40%. So with time, they can work together with local contractors. Local contractors will benefit by enhanced capacity. And then fortunately in the future, they can bid by themselves. So that law will help a lot in terms of bidding capacity. Even for the railway itself, phase one, it was not contractual. We did not commit to give local content. So the Chinese contractor had the liberty to either do it or don't do it. Eventually they give about 20%. In the second phase, we have put in the contract that of the entire civil works, 40% must go to local contractors, suppliers, like yourself, if you want. From a company, you can supply anything you want, fuel, spare parts. It's in the agreement with the contractor,
Right.
and that's factual.
Okay. And what happens when a certain contractor exceeds the limit of the number of contracts that they're supposed to get, but yet again continue to get them?
No, that's not true. There's a benchmark. Like I know there's a 10 billion, I think, limit. When they reach that limit, they don't get more work. And I'll give you examples. Like say there's one road, Maridi Saragate, which was being contested on that basis. And this contractor had reached the limit. He's one of the best contractors we have. And we say we shall not go beyond that limit. Otherwise, you'll be breaking the rules of procurement.
Right. Yeah. But it's alleged that one Chinese company, China Wuyi, has exceeded its limit for tenders, but then still getting more tenders. What do you have to say about that?
That's what I meant. In this job, Malid Desalegn, they were in the bidding, they were being pushed, but we actually insisted that although they are the lowest, they will not get it. We are giving to SS Meta.
Okay. And finally, to the Greenfield Development Project, why was it terminated and what next now?
GFT is a long story, but very briefly. Terminated because it wasn't value for money, it wasn't economical, and we do not need it right now. We shall need it in 2025.
Okay. What next now?
In terms of?
As in knowing that it was terminated, what is the plan now?
So we are meeting with the lawyers just to make sure that the money which was paid is refunded, but also to make sure we don't lose out. We do a second runway, which is being financed by ADB.
Thank you so much. And that was earlier this morning, speaking to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport and Infrastructure, James Macharia. But now joining us are very avid journalists, very experienced as well, with a wealth of knowledge in a number of industries in the country today. Paul Wafula and Moses Macharia from the Standard newspaper. Quite a lot has been said about today's summit and whether or not the government is on the right path when it comes to delivery of services. But what do you think about these summits that we are having at the State House, Paul? Do you think that they are actually on the right track? Is the government on the right track, from your opinion?
I think communication is a very important thing in everything, in all sense. And I give credit to the government on this front in terms of they are telling people that this is what we have been able to do, or this is what we are doing. So it's upon someone who lives in the place where the government is saying they have built a road to come up and say there's no road. Yeah. Or if they are saying they have done X, Y, Z, for you to come up and say X, Y, Z has not actually been done. So I think when they come out to explain the reasoning behind the developments that they are doing, it's a good thing. It gives us context. It gives us at least an understanding on where the government is going. And even for investors, they want to understand, like, for instance, when are the timelines for the Isiolo airport? For instance, they want to understand the port in Mombasa, what is being done. So as you invest, you know how are you going to put your investment in line with the government's investment. So I think it's a very good place to stay with, so that you don't just go and put money somewhere where it will not make business sense. Right. So I think that's really important.
Okay. Moses, you actually attended the summit this morning. And, you know, some of the investors or some of the people who questioned the current status were thinking maybe this is a pipeline dream and, you know, there's not much reality to it. What do you think about that line of thought?
Well, I don't agree with them specifically, and I'll give you reasons. To begin with, Macharia gave himself an A for the projects that they've done. Well, and there's good reason for that, because they've done, and assuming it's right, because I really do not have any metrics of measuring how much they've done, but if they've actually done 7,000 kilometers of tarmac, I think that's an A. But then again, on the issue of cost, we had actually mentioned a bit of that. I think it is important that we divorce these two issues. Are there roads? Yes, there are roads. At what cost? That should be a totally different argument. And you remember, as the president was saying, that we are investing too much, but he thinks it is the right thing to do. World Bank on the other side thinks it's not the right thing to do. But if you listen to him, what he's saying is World Bank is actually speaking for the developed countries who want to keep dumping their production here. So by not investing in infrastructure, essentially means we will remain a market for them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is actually a very good point to note as well. Paul, do you agree with what the president had to say in that regard?
I agree.
We are being looked at as a dumping ground?
I agree from that. It makes a lot of sense. But, Joe, you have to look at what you have on the table and share it across, right? You don't want hospitals without doctors. Like, there are so many health centers, everybody is building hospitals. They're saying, yes, we are putting in a lot of infrastructure. But what is the point without doctors? What is the point of having a bigger infrastructure? Like, we are doing a very big hospital in Eldoret, yet we do not even have cancer machines here in Nairobi. Our machines keep breaking down. What is the point of building all those lines of electricity, yet one substation goes down and the entire country goes into darkness? So you have to look at it from a general perspective to see, as we invest, are we investing properly in that? If we have 100 shillings, where are we putting in? As we put 60 shillings infrastructure, is it at the expense of education? Is it at the expense of health? So that all these things have to be put in place on the same table to see where are we putting all our money. And then if you're just running into infrastructure, because that's the place where there are so many deals that are entrepreneurs and people are cutting, and that's the reason why they're doing it, because I don't see any single project that they are doing that hasn't had issues. For instance, I've looked at the airport, I've looked at the Central Gauge Railway. These are the biggest projects. Looked at even the port of Mombasa had to be fired. You find there are entrepreneurs, there are people who are getting money out of this project.
All right.
So are they investing just because there's somebody somewhere who's making a cut, or is it because for a common mwananchi? Because for a common mwananchi, you will see people are talking about roads.
So we are seeing 10% of our financial budget going into infrastructure, and these are high or heavy capex projects. But then also we are seeing the fact that the devil is in the detail, and just like you said, you know, almost all the big infrastructure projects have got quite a bit of scandals around them. But then the president also defended that bit, and he said, you know, when you invest heavily into infrastructure or heavily into a certain sector or industry, it draws a lot of attention, and that is why you know, critics, including The Economist, have come up and said, you know, this is a dub investment. But is it really a dub investment that we're looking at, Moses?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I think we need to separate these two issues. Is there corruption? Yes, there is corruption.
Yeah.
Do we need these projects? Yes, we do need these projects. So if we're able to deal with the two issues separately, then we won't lose the argument. But for as long as we're saying, yes, we are, I mean, unless you tell me we can actually link and say we are only doing this project because someone is going to get a cut, I mean, I think that's a very weak argument.
All right,
do
so
we need the projects? Yes, we do.
Going forward, where do you think we need to invest more? Is it on roads? Is it Jomo Kenyatta International
well,
Airport?
The truth is we won't be doing the SGR forever. I mean, we have probably 2 or 3 years so that we are done with the SGR. So then that will not be an issue. That will be an issue out of the table, out of the way. So going forward, there is really no way of doing the SGR in bits. It had to be done the whole, you know, the whole 600 kilometers or so.
Yeah.
So in asset allocation or in the argument of where do we put our money, I think the infrastructure is very primary. It is a backbone, and there was no way, we had to start somewhere. So if we were to start on anywhere else, probably someone else will still have brought the argument, why didn't we do the roads first? So I think on investment, let's go heavy.
All right, let's go heavy. Paul, finally?
I think the important thing that Moses is missing here, and I'll say as my final thought, is that nobody is in question in terms of the importance of the infrastructure project. That every Kenyan will tell you. I mean, roads, everyone wants a road, and we know the importance of that. But at what cost? That question is really important, because the moment you do your railway at an inflated price, 30-40% above market, you can't repay that loan. You'll have to get the money from elsewhere, and the rest of the economy will suffer. So I think the issue is, as we run into the infrastructure project, it must be done thorough costing. The impact on the economy must also be looked at in terms of the overall impact of the project before we even go deep into sinking money into that. But all the projects...
No, but on the flip side, Paul, don't forget, even the president was saying, yes, do we have to wait 50 years till we have 300 billion through the SGR, or can we get into it, borrow right now and get it out?
So we need to do what we must do at the moment.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you so much. Award-winning journalists Paul Wafula and Moses Mashira, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts here on